Heavy work followed by pump work is one of the single most time proven methods of building muscle. Okay. And when I say time proven, I am talking about 70, 80 years of experience out there with this. This approach has worked for generations. It has been proven effective in the trenches, and we just in general know that the idea works. Now, keeping in mind, when we talk about heavy work, I do mean fairly heavy work, right? In some cases, it might be me over here doing 1s and 3 reps, but it could be 5 reps, 6 reps. Any way you break it down, base building and building off of heavy weight, heavy tension with big basic exercises for either very low or moderately low reps is a phenomenal way to increase strength, to increase muscle through most of the major muscles in your body. And it does so fairly efficiently. Okay, so we need to be clear on that. You can get a lot of muscle growth for a relatively small amount of gym time commitment while doing these things. Okay, the basis of most novice programs are built around this idea, successful ones, of coming in and just focusing on progressive overload, meaning regularly adding weight to the bar on big basic barbell exercises. Okay, and this works phenomenally well for almost every demographic. I mean, this works for young men, it works for old ladies. This idea has been documented, it's time proven. Okay, and we do need to keep in mind getting stronger is worth a lot for more novice lifters. In other words, building a strength base will go a very, very long way in continuing to actually put muscle on you, in addition to the fact that being strong is beneficial. Because again, we're following the principles of progressive overload. All right. And then by pump work, I mean coming in and finishing up by doing things that induce metabolic fatigue, sometimes with big exercises, sometimes with small movements. I mean, a perfect example right there from that workout, you see me doing like 12, 13 reps with a dumbbell fly. But I had done previously before that heavy benching with a flat bench, then heavy benching with an incline bench that day. And then we finished the chest off with this pump exercise. Okay. And to understand all of this, there's a couple of things that we need to understand with these ideas as to why these principles work. Number one, there's 2 generally accepted pathways to causing muscle growth in terms of stimulating it. And this is how we get to the upper threshold muscle fibers, the ones that grow the most, and the ones that basically are the only ones that grow once you're a more advanced lifter. Okay, so this is why this is important to understand. Because again, the longer you lift, the more all of your gains become biased towards only those faster twitch fibers. If you've been training a few years, they're probably where 100% of your muscle growth is coming from, or at least 95%. Early on, not so much the case. They might only be half of your muscle growth. But the idea here is we're dealing with two pathways. That's going to be mechanical tension, which again, it comes from, getting fatigued with the moderately heavy weights, increasing tension, increasing workload over time. So mechanical tension on the muscles, and then metabolic fatigue, which again is the accumulation of metabolites by hard taxing training volume, or just the sheer accumulation of work. Okay, so again, mechanical tension and metabolic fatigue. Now, there used to previously be a third one that was considered to be muscle damage, but as research has looked at it over the years, it's actually been found that it doesn't appear to stimulate any muscle growth. In other words, the amount of muscle damage that we induce doesn't appear to be positively correlated with muscle growth. It doesn't seem to be a requirement for muscle growth. And when it becomes excessive, it actually tends to reduce total muscle growth because we spend too much time recovering and less time growing. So we don't think about that one so much. So again, certain techniques that used to be used to induce that are not necessary. But when we come back over to the other, it is going to be about heavy work followed by pump work. So when we understand that, then you realize, so we do these big movements, and then we, with heavier weights, chasing mechanical tension, chasing progressive overload, and then if we come behind it and we use these fatiguing exercises, these pump exercises, they don't always have to be for super high reps. They can just be moderately high reps. They can be 8, 10, 12, whatever. Just like the heavy work is not a set amount. It could be technically 1 rep, but it could be, up to about 6 to 8 reps, okay? And if it's with a big exercise, that's heavy work, All right. So what we do here is we take the big movements that are efficient. Okay, we stack a lot of muscle on. And then when we come behind it, we're looking at, can I train any weak links that got missed? Okay, can I find heads of muscles, muscle fibers, or whatever that maybe got understimulated from that? Can I induce muscle growth through possibly a second pathway? Because there is some hypothesis out there that different rep ranges and actually using these different energy systems may have some minor independent benefits for muscle growth. In other words, it's never been proven, but certainly experts and researchers and PhDs have definitely speculated that there's a real possibility that different rep ranges may cause muscle growth through slightly at least some independent pathways. In other words, they share a lot of pathways, but there may be some unique benefits. So if we're doing heavier work followed by pump work, okay, kind of those sort of rep ranges I described, guess what? We would be getting those different energy systems. We'd be getting those different rep ranges that may facilitate some extra muscle growth. And that might be one reason this theory seems to work so well. Okay, but the other thing to think about is a practicality perspective. It's hard to do really high reps and pump work with big exercises. They're still great for size and strength and for building your overall base. Okay, smaller exercises, it's harder to do low reps on because it tends to just kill your tendons and joints. Okay, in other words, doing a heavy 5-rep set of curls may not go well. In fact, it may tear a bicep tendon. Okay, you might get tendon inflammation trying to do a heavy 5-rep set of skull crushers for your triceps and so on and so forth. So they tend to lend themselves to higher reps by default. Okay, so some of this is a practical viewpoint of if we want to get these different rep ranges, it actually makes sense to use the big exercises for the heavier low reps because, again, they're less likely to injure us versus similar reps and intensities with smaller movements. Believe it or not, it does appear to be the case. But they don't create the enormous cardiovascular limit, okay, that we would get if we try to do 10 plus reps, 12 reps on really big movements. They become cardio. Our actual cardiovascular system can limit our ability to even load them at that point. That doesn't then exist with the small movements, but then you get hurt easier, but they're not cardiovascularly limited. So it makes sense if we want these different rep ranges to actually look at the exercise selection when doing this. So there's a number of reasons why it appears both practical and hypothetical why heavy work followed by pump work seems to work so well historically. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.